Hi, I'm Carolina,
And I'm Amanda.
and we're both co-owners of Büddhi Yoga in La Jolla, and we created a workout called FlowLIFT.
And this is the second episode of our podcast called Büddhi Babble, where we get together and talk about all things yoga and fitness. And today's episode is going to be about how people changed because of the pandemic, their exercising habits. Do you still go to group fitness classes? Do you still go to group yoga classes? Did you not want to go during COVID because you were scared? There's just so many different reactions, and it had a huge effect on how people work out.
Yeah, so today we'll be interviewing one of our longtime students. She's been with us for a few years, and she's one of the people that, disappeared for a long time. And she's now back, so we would love to get her opinion on everything. And our second guest is a good friend of ours. She never stopped coming to the studio, so she's got a totally different viewpoint. And me and Amanda are pretty much aligned on our habits on what we did during COVID, but it'll be interesting to get all these different viewpoints.
So we will be bringing Kera and Catherine in a moment to discuss, and we can't wait for you to meet them.
All right, here we are with Kera and Catherine, and we're going to talk a little bit about how COVID affected us, in terms of working out, doing group classes, our habits, all that stuff. For us, in terms of owning a yoga studio, it's pretty depressing with COVID. And I remember when Amanda told me, we're going to have to shut down for a month, I was shocked. I'm like, what do you mean, a whole month? And then it turned into a very, very long time. So, so we just want to talk about what our experiences were, how we felt, how our habits changed, and all that stuff. So we're going to start with Kera.
Hi.
All right. So you want to go ahead and ask her, Amanda?
Sure. Kera, how did you feel when everything first got shut down? Obviously, you had no option to go to any classes, but were you super bummed about not being able to go, or were you like, well, I wouldn't go anyways?
I was super bummed. It's just, for me, it's probably one of my top, 2 or 3 things of normalcy and seeing people, and to have that taken away along with everything else was super hard.
And did you still exercise? How did you get in? How did you get that mental?
I did FlowLIFT online, which is half as good, with all my family members watching on a dirty carpet. And I did the Peloton, which I already owned. And after COVID, I basically threw it out the window because I never want to exercise in my house.
We did that too. We did we'd get the whole family together and we'd put our online classes on, and I'd make everybody do yoga, but it was, it's not the same. There's so many distractions. There's people walking by, and then the kids get bored. They don't want to do it anymore. So it was really, really hard.
Yeah. For me, part of yoga is leaving the house and seeing my yoga friends and being in the studio without my phone.
Yeah, that was a big shock for me. I'm used to that being my biggest social outlet, and not being able to see really anyone. And that's where I see people, is at Büddhi Yoga, was very, very strange. Catherine, what about you? How did you feel when it first happened? Were you just I am staying home, this is a little making me nervous?
Well, gosh, it was such a strange time. It was just, doesn't it just seem weird? Who would have ever thought that we'd be suddenly in that situation?
I know.
Yeah, I was definitely trying to take the steps that we were told to keep ourselves safe. So, I think it's at first, we didn't really know exactly that much about the virus, right? We didn't know if it was we were using lots of hand sanitizer, and we didn't know about masks and so on. But it just, when we learned that the virus was spread through the tiny particles the air that we breathed in and then breathed out and then breathed in. That led to wearing masks and social distancing and exercising outdoors. So the thought of going inside of a contained room with the doors mostly closed and people breathing, it just seemed like completely that's what you would do to try to get sick. So I did not feel safe going to the studio. But on the other hand, a really close friend who I don't see that often, who I've known forever, she's a yoga teacher in LA. And so she was doing Zoom classes, and you guys might have been doing it too, but it was a way to reconnect with her. And then it kind of was a testament to the power of habit and how quickly habits change, because that became my new habit. And this, at the same token, though, I mean, I'm so at heart, I'm so lazy. Like if I'm at yoga, if I drive myself there, I'm going to do it. But if I'm home, I mean, there's the dryer that needs to be emptied or the dishwasher that needs to be turned on. So this wasn't really, working at home wasn't enough for me.
Yeah, I do think I hate to say it's like a cliched women's work thing, but for women at home, like if I'm on the ground doing yoga and I see like my floor covered in dust, right, it's very hard for me to not get up and clean the floor.
Yeah.
But that is true about habits. And I mean, Catherine, I feel like now that you're back, you come almost every day. So you're definitely not a lazy person, relative to other people. But it is cool that you got that new habit just to like reconnect with an old friend. Yeah. And we did do the live stream classes, and we would go do the live stream the whole time during COVID. And like, Kera would come and like be off camera or something, like people would come. And I mean, we'd be very, very far apart with the doors open, but we did sort of get to have these like private, cool classes all alone in my
underground yoga.
What?
A little underground yoga.
Yeah. I mean, it was to film, and all these people were taking it online, which was very, very cool. And it was a different way to connect to everybody, but it was kind of fun having our little like basically private yoga spot.
And it sure was easier to park.
Totally.
There was two cars on Gerard, me and you.
That was really, really crazy.
I mean, I think the toughest thing for me was like the mental and emotional, right? Like not having the room full of people all working together, sweating, and like having that community thing. I think I realized how much I use yoga and FlowLIFT for like stress relief and for just being, calmer and more centered. And so when we didn't have that, I mean, we were closed. I think we closed like 2 different times, but when we didn't have that, we weren't going there at all. It was like, I was like going stir crazy, like having the kids home all the time, like cooking and cleaning all day, and like just not having that escape. Yeah. It made me realize how much I need it every day,
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I tried, like when everything first got shut down, I was like, I guess I'm just not going to do anything. And I lasted like a week, and I felt really horrible, just mentally and physically. And just getting back even in just to film classes, like I have to teach, I had to keep something going. So it was kind of like a lifeline, having to teach and having to record.
And so, Catherine, now that you're back, what do you notice in terms of like your emotional state, mental, like how, what finally got you to come back?
Well, it was definitely feeling more comfort with, it being a safe thing to do. I finally did get COVID in September. But also, I don't know about you guys, but like I'm so over it, right? Like whatever, like I had a client came last week. I'm an esthetician, and she had said she had a cold and she had a mask on, and I should have probably sent her home, but I put a mask on. Anyway, it turned out that she had COVID, and instead of like going, oh my God, it's like, okay, fine, whatever, I'm fine. You know what I mean? You can't keep that state of hypervigilance forever. That said, like all of us, I feel like our life can be really stressful. And even though we're so also blessed to live in this beautiful community and, we're not wondering, are we going to be able to pay rent this month? And we're very blessed and all that. But, life is stressful for all of us in different ways. And I didn't really have an outlet before. I've always worked out, but I didn't really have an outlet to kind of manage stress. And since we have a son and we've struggled a lot with him, and he's been given but doesn't always use tools to manage his stress. But just that whole subject of giving our children tools and us ourselves using tools and having a toolbox to manage stress, most of us don't really do that. And now that I have that, and I also walk a lot, and walking helps too. But between yoga and walking, I mean, from some family struggles with the son, I don't know how I would have managed, honestly, because it spills over to so many areas of your life. And our situation has been a little bit extreme, but we all have our things, right? But if you don't kind of have a mindful outlet to deal with, manage your stress and kind of take care of yourself and all the things that yoga can give you, I think it impacts your life so poorly. And I really credit it with me, kind of not completely losing my marbles.
Yeah.
Right. It's funny because I feel like Catherine and I are on here because maybe we had different feelings at the beginning or during COVID, but it's clear we all have the same exact thing. We're using yoga, exercise, going to the studio to connect, relieve stress. Yeah. And, some people were better at finding that than others. But when I was trying to do it at home, I remember my daughter would say, "Oh, is the neighbor coming over to work out with you?" She knew mom needs to get her Zoom FlowLIFT, class. If she's not leaving the house, she better at least get on the TV.
Right. And it is nice even just at least having one friend come over.
Oh yeah.
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 We were grumpy workout partners. We just made each other.
I know. It makes me so sad that there's still so many people that haven't come back since COVID. There's so many people that used to come, if not every day, at least 2 to 3 times a week. And I just haven't seen them at all. And I think, for a moment, I thought they're still scared of COVID. And I think there are those people, but I think there's also those people that have changed their habits. Yeah. And now are used to having a trainer come over and work out in their garage or, doing a 20-minute YouTube class or whatever. I don't know. They just forgot what they did before COVID, right? That's what it seems like.
Yeah. Well, I think I even have a couple of friends who became members and then had stressful things happen and, they just didn't keep it up. I feel like COVID was that times 100, if you had trouble with that before, you definitely weren't going to make it through COVID, sticking to healthy habits.
Right.
I didn't, and I'm, more likely to than most, maybe.
Right. That's true. What were you going to say, Catherine?
Well, just, there's a few people I thought, oh my gosh, I haven't seen her. And I'll see people around town and think, gosh, that's weird. I haven't seen them back at yoga.
Yell at them to come back. I just saw 2 people yesterday. They're a couple and they used to come all the time. And I was like, hey guys. And we started chatting. I didn't bring it up to them. They brought how's Büddhi? And I was like, why haven't you guys been back? Are you still nervous? And they were like, no. And I'm like, well, then why haven't you been back? And they're just like, we don't know. It was a strange permission slip to stop doing the things you need to do. And then you sort of forget how good it makes you feel. Like you said, the habits change. And if you go long enough without doing yoga, without experiencing that sense of physical and mental space, I just think you get used to a new normal that's not nearly as good, but you just kind of forget how good you could feel. I think they're going to come back. They're going to come back, but.
Yeah, it's the power of habit. And I haven't, there's studies about that. If you do something different for X number of weeks, and that becomes your new habit. So people have just changed habits.
Not doing yoga is shocking to me because when I stop doing yoga, let's say I go on vacation, I'm gone for 1 or 2 weeks, I start getting sciatica pain. I start getting back pain. Like, it all just comes like magic. And so I don't know. I can't imagine. Like, I see people all the time who are beating up their bodies doing, sports or running or whatever, and they do no stretching at all, no breathing. And it's like, how are these people like surviving? Are they in pain all the time? And then the pain becomes normal? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I do think people are in physical and mental pain all the time, like to varying degrees. And I guess, Kera, you're right. Like, all four of us are probably unusual examples of people who dedicate a considerable amount of time, and we found our thing. Not everybody has their thing. And
right, but sometimes when someone's thing is like running and they've run like 6 miles a day for 30 years, like they're not in good shape at all. Like, it may have helped them mentally, but like they're struggling now, and I don't know what can go wrong if yoga's your thing.
Yeah,
it's true. That reminds me of a Brian Kess quote. He says, the harder you are on something, the faster you wear it out. And it's like, oh yeah. Like, you can only do that for so long without doing the stuff that takes care of your body, right?
Yeah. And I'm older than you guys, obviously. And so it's something that people start to really grapple with, is your body just starts to really fall apart. And most of my friends, staying in shape or trying to, hold the body together is such an important thing. But it's just like the little things that you can kind of get away with in your 40s and 50s. I just turned 60, and which is appalling. I know, it's ridiculous, but anyway, it is. And so people, like a lot of the women were trying to, not gain weight, and so people doing a lot of running, things for just more physical, to keep ourselves physically the way that we think we want to, but not really also helping the body to stay healthy. And so that's one nice thing about yoga, is that it does so many different things for you, the least of which is physical, but also mental. So it just, it checks so many boxes.
Yeah,
definitely.
I always wonder, like, because I love, and obviously I'm super tight with the yoga community, but I have so many friends who I know from other places, and none of them do yoga. Like, they don't like it. They've like done one class. I don't even know how to begin to try to, there's no, like, you can't convince someone to do something. Like,
you know what? A lot of it has to do with how good the yoga class is. And I don't think there's a lot of good yoga out there. I don't know. Like,
a lot of them complain it's slow, it's too quiet, they're not flexible. It's all the craziest excuses I've ever heard.
Yeah.
But it's wild to me.
It is.
Yeah, any other form of exercise.
And I like to think that we create a welcoming vibe. Like, I feel like our classes do have all different ages. It's one thing if you go into PB into like everyone's 25, and I can see that being, a weird, intimidating thing. But my slow flow class this morning was, 40 to 75, which I guess that's what you're saying. They think that's slow and boring, but yeah, I think they'd feel a lot better if they tried it, but you're right. It's very hard to convince people.
And there's the whole, like, I'm a mom, I'm busy, I don't have time, which again is another excuse. I know, but sometimes, it's easy to convince yourself it is when you've got stuff to do, but the benefits are worth sacrificing, errands.
Definitely.
And it's like, how do you get that message across, right? Like, for us, especially right now, we're in the middle of like rebranding and combining all our websites, and we're struggling with that. Like, how do you pull more men in? How do you get people to understand how amazing it feels to do yoga, a couple times a week and all that? So it's definitely interesting to hear those excuses.
And in a perfect world, and I don't know how you would ever do this, I don't know how much time we have, but I would just say that, it would be wonderful if we started yoga with children who are in elementary school, because kids, teenagers and kids in their 20s, anxiety is just an epidemic portions. And, mental health is just, we hear so much, it's such a problem with so many kids and them not feeling connected and feeling overwhelmed and anxious. And so we don't really teach kids when they're young to have these tools in their toolbox to manage stress, right? And so as adults, people come to an adulthood and they're, it's like, I'll eat a quart of Haagen-Dazs, or I'll smoke cigarettes, or smoke too much weed, or drink a bottle of wine, whatever. So we don't learn these coping techniques as children. So it's no wonder as an adult, you're like, what am I supposed to do with these feelings I can't manage? So just having normalizing, having some mindfulness exercise, would be just ideal. But it's like I have a relative, and she's very, very conservative Christian. And so the idea of yoga, she kind of thinks it's like too like mumbo jumbo. Yeah. Like it's too mumbo jumbo, not Christ-like. And I try to tell her, you can kind of use whatever words you want, but it's just, it's almost like meditate, or like also like meditation is like devil worship. It's like, you can say whatever you want. It's just mindfulness, right? And you can have it be almost like prayer. So anyway, just kind of meeting people where they are, that, yoga would be a great method to be able to manage throughout your life, your stress, and have some quiet time, and also, keep your mind, as you've said, keep your mind and your body strong and flexible. So
that's
I don't
so true.
To change that, but it changes with moms doing yoga and then introducing their children to it.
Yeah, I've been bringing my son to yoga since he was 8. Actually, yeah, before that, because they did kids yoga. So they've been going since they were like 4. And I still bring him all the time, and he actually likes it, but it would be great to encourage more moms to bring their kids to yoga, right? Like maybe there's like a bring your kid to yoga day or something. But we're having these family group memberships, like the marketing people told us yesterday, somehow including or having the women that are already doing yoga, bring their family members, their husbands, their kids, all that.
Yeah.
The next generation
are open to all ages. I don't care if someone brings a 5-year-old to my vinyasa class, and it is right. We're modeling behavior for our kids.
Yeah.
So if we're my mom does yoga to make herself not crazy. That's what my kids would say. And I think the anxiety in children is worse than ever. And COVID did exacerbate that. COVID in a lot of ways, not destroyed, but it put a huge damper on community and gathering and gathering together, because gathering was what wasn't okay. And people haven't fully come back to that, because it's not like a bottle of wine. It's not this easy go-to for stress relief. Yeah. You might not think the group energy being part of why yoga feels good, but it is. Even if you don't know everybody, not everybody knows everybody at Büddhi, but eventually I think if you come enough, you see the same faces over and over, and you do get to breathe and you do get to stretch for an hour, but it's also kind of I hate to use church as an example, but one of the reasons people go to church is for that sense of community, and you're all moving and breathing together in the same room. So I just think, of course, we want people to do classes online if they don't want to come to class, but just that being together is part of what makes working out or yoga, I think, so great. And I think people do need to come back to group classes to get that extra hit.
One other thing I did notice with COVID was that a lot of people turned to alcohol. They realized, oh my God, I'm drinking every single night. I have an alcohol problem. And then their kids are watching this, right? So it's oh, well, next time I'm stressed, I'm going to go drink. So it's goes back to what you said, Catherine, is you have to model this behavior for kids. Whatever you're doing, they're going to copy, right?
Right.
One
and
thing,
then back to what Amanda said, I'll just say real fast, when they do those studies about like blue zones where people live, it's very common for people to be over 100, but also just healthy communities where people, their mental health is pretty stable. But I mean, it's that community, it's that connection is what you were saying. That is so important, right? Yeah. I mean, you can be in great physical shape, but you won't be if you don't have that community and that connection to other people that you get from being together.
Yeah.
True.
I was just going to say, my daughter plays water polo, and I've maybe 3 separate times been approached by parents about oh, the girls should do yoga, for strength, for flexibility, and we should do this. And, I know you're, affiliated with Büddhi Yoga, and there's a lot of talk about stuff like that. And then at the end of the day, they're in the weight room, or right. They think they need to swim 2,000 more meters, or forget it all. They're going to talk to the coach to get them, they're modeling the opposite, of what we want. It doesn't need to be this class at Büddhi for an hour on Sunday. It's a whole vibe. It's a mentality. It's the coach not talking about eating carbs before the game, but maybe doing 5 minutes of meditation.
Right.
Yeah.
Trust me, they would both help, So yeah, I mean, I think I never listened to what my parents said. I don't think my daughter's listening to me, but I definitely copy what they did.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And that's all I can hope for.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Well, what else shall we talk about? Or shall we say goodbye?
Well, I'm thankful to both of you for sticking with us, because you're back, and Kiki, you never left. You can't, because you run the boutique. So you're there all the time. But I mean, as soon as you felt comfortable, Catherine, you came back, and you're back every day pretty much. So you're a great example of, you being cautious, as like you said, when that first happened, we didn't know what was going on, and being cautious and following all those rules, out of respect, not just for yourself, but everybody else, was definitely an important thing to do. And I'm just glad that we're at a place where it's comfortable and safe to be in our very large yoga space to get together. And the idea of really bringing your family. I think that's kind of a nice takeaway from this that we've talked about. Bring your husband, bring your kids, bring your neighbors. It's just friends. Yeah, bring your friends. It's just such a great way to spend time together. That's not at a bar or, right. Out to eat. It's in a lot of ways cheaper and healthier, and just this idea of gathering again.
Yeah.
Well,
all right. Thank you.
I want to say one more thing, and that is that it's been so nice for me. I mean, I think I've been coming for, maybe I was 2 years before the pandemic. So the time is gone, but because I didn't practice yoga regularly before. I mean, I did dabbled here and there. But anyway, I just want to say that it's been so nice to have my little community there, and I've loved all you guys, and I've loved meeting you, and it's been so nice.
Yay! Thanks.
We're glad you're back.
Büddhi forever.
Büddhi forever.
Thanks so much for listening today to our podcast. The next one we have lined up for you guys is about men doing yoga. So we'll be talking to a person who does yoga every day, a guy who's never done yoga, and another guy who comes very sporadically throughout the year. So join us
too. Why are the rooms filled with women? We want to know why. We want to make it 50-50.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
So thanks for listening. See you next time.
See you next time.